The traffic was pretty bad, and I think people are dribbling in. I want to welcome everybody. Thank you for braving the traffic and the holiday to-do list, et cetera. And the first thing I'd like to do is to just have everybody introduce yourself, and if you want, tell something about yourself, just because I think this meeting is not published, so we can be a little informal, right? It's not.
Today we're recapping the year, so we're not taking up any items. So it's just a fun time to look back and for new folks to look at what we've been busy doing. And I think for my new staff to realize how much work they've actually done. I knew we've been working really hard, but when I started to look at the numbers, it's like, yeah, we've been working really hard. So anyway, it's a tradition to do this at the end of the year.
Good. Kate, do you want to start? Please.
Yeah, I'm Kate Stevenson. What else do you want to know? It's just, yeah.
My name's Jeannie Nelson, and I am pleased to serve with every last one of you and care passionately about what we're doing and the great things we're going to do ahead.
And I should say that Jeannie has been on the council and chaired the council from the beginning and has been the most loyal supporter.
Small fact check. I've not been on it, on the board forever, of the commission forever.
Off and on.
But you're right, I was the first co-chair of the Greenways Commission many moons ago, and then, my caring lasted all that long.
I'm Tyler Yarbrough. I live on 51st Avenue across from the Richland Creek Greenway, so I owe my sanity and my family's sanity to Greenways.
I'm Charles Sewing. I think I've been on the commission now since about 2015 or 16, so enjoyed serving in this capacity and making a difference in our community.
And I'm Ann Tidwell, I'm the chair, and this is a great cause, and it's so nice to have something that you belong to that actually accomplishes things. And the Greenways has really accomplished a lot, so thank you all.
I'm Clay Capp. I represent District 6 on the Metro Council, and Greenways are very important to me and my district.
I'm Jenny Welsh. I represent Council District 16 on the Metro Council, and I'm feeling very hopeful about our new crop of councilors and what we are going to be able to accomplish with a new mayor. So I think we're going to really move the ball forward this year, and I'm looking forward to it.
I am too. I'm Sandy Ewing. I'm the council person for District 34. And I'm brand new to all of this, but not brand new to a passion for our greenway system and for our parks. I live right across from a greenway in Edwin Warner Park that goes past Ensworth. And like you, I owe my sanity and my family's sanity to that greenway system. So I'm really happy to be part of this group.
Okay. Cindy?
Hi, Cindy Harrison. I run the division, the Greenways and Open Space Division for Metro Parks. I'm been with the department for 12 years and the same division, and so I'm very passionate about it and happy to share what we're going to share today. I do want to take just a moment to say that because of you all and a lot of other advocates, we were able to bring on new staff this year, and they've been fabulous, and I just want to publicly thank them, especially this week, have been amazing to pull this together. We had some technology issues. They jump in for everything. And we had interviews yesterday for an additional position and hope to make a selection on that here in the next week or so. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, and Jordan, let's go on around.
Oh, hi, I'm Jordan House. I'm with Greenways for Nashville, the nonprofit friends group.
Kathy Caroline, Greenways for Nashville. Hi, I'm Kendra Ackliff. I work with the mayor's office on climate sustainability and resilience issues.
Amy Cranover, Executive Director of Greenways for Nashville.
We have, speak up, please, because, okay, well, come to the podium. We are being recorded. Thank you.
Good morning, I'm John Atkinson. I live about 12 miles south in Nashville. I think it's District 4, and I came here to pose a question to the council. Thank you.
I'm Tom Palco, Metro Water Services. I've been with Stormwater for 38 years with Metro. And part of what I do in Stormwater is I use federal dollars to reclaim floodplain by taking flood-prone houses out of harm's way and restoring it to open space. So I build open space.
I'm Marissa Pappas. I'm with Greenways for Nashville.
Okay.
I'm Joanne Conley, and I'm with Greenways. Metro.
Thank you. Great.
So if I may, I wanted to add that Olivia Hill, Councilmember Olivia Hill, is recovering from COVID, and that is why she couldn't join us today.
Thank you. Good. Great. Okay, Cindy? Or shall we do the public comment?
Yes,
next?
please.
Good. Okay. John Atkinson has a question. He's going to go to the podium.
Just a brief history. I have a parcel of open space behind my house that was a requirement of the developer and the development. My next door neighbor has chosen to build a large wooden structure in the open space, about 50 feet wide, 24 feet deep, and 13 feet high. I've approached Hub Metro to remedy, and they've told me, not our problem. It's up to whoever owns the property to take it on with the homeowner, and that would be the HOA, which in effect doesn't really exist because there's no officers and no governing body. My concern is there's a law of adverse possession that in as few as 7 years or as many as 20 years, you can take possession of
Right.
property that's next to yours if you're using it. And while the structure's been in place for a year, I don't see any intent of the homeowner to take it down or remove it. So if the council has any advice on how to proceed, that's my concern. Thank you.
It's not really a Greenways matter, but we do have several attorneys. If any of you want to.
And I think, Mr. Atkinson, I'm happy to talk with you after the meeting or when it's convenient for you, and let me get a little more detail from you, and then I can speak with Metro Legal. I think they're going to be the best course for us to figure out how to resolve your issue.
Sounds great. Thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Seems like a worthwhile thing to settle, if it can be settled. Okay, Cindy, 2023. We have done a lot, and Cindy's going to hurry, and we're going to get out on time.
We have done a lot, so if I go overboard, y'all give me the signal, whatever. Again, we have been extremely busy. As council members know, at the end of the last administration, those of you who were on council, we saw a huge influx of projects coming in before the administrative change because people didn't want their projects to stall out. My team was new, and thank goodness they were here. So part of what we do is we partner with private development, private developers who are building along a greenway or a planned greenway. We work with them to at least make open space available to develop a greenway. We also work with them on designing the greenway and hopefully building and maintaining it from the private sector. And we've been very successful on many projects around the county on that. So it keeps us hopping. So we have capital projects on one hand, and we have other greenways that are these partnerships with private developments. And I'm kind of surprised when I looked at the totals of how many that we've addressed this year. But anyway, that's part of what we do. Of course, we're developing greenways. We're also trying to acquire open space for the park system in general, giving public access, and with the growth that we're having, trying to keep up with that, to make sure that the public has places to be outdoors in perpetuity. So I'm gonna just dive right into what we've been up to this year. Right now, we've got 1.39 miles of greenways under construction. These are all projects that are developer-driven, except for Fair Park, and that's a partnership with the Fair Board. So I'm just kind of run through some of these. The Browns Creek Greenway is Phase 2 of Fair Park. The Ben Allen is one of our first trail-oriented development greenways, so it's not along a water corridor, and it's not a typical urban trail. It's part of a residential development, and that is under construction as well. And then, as obvious by all the construction that's happening downtown, we've got quite a few greenways that are focused along the Cumberland River. And First Tennessee Park, I will let you know, we think we'll be opening that greenway in March. And we worked really, really hard when the ballpark was built. The greenway was basically a portion of it encapsulated within the ballpark. So on days when there were games or events, you had to have a ticket to get to the greenway. You'd get to it and then you couldn't get in. So we have worked with Portman Holdings, a developer who's building a little bit mixed use, mostly residential development with a little commercial on the bottom, kind of in behind left field at the stadium, to build a second portion of greenway that's outside the fencing, do some realignment so that that greenway will be open 365 days a year. And they are not only building that for us, they designed it, they built it, and they'll maintain all the landscaping on it at their cost in perpetuity. Of course, we'll maintain the pavement. But, and then along with that, we didn't have an easement for that greenway. It was, had been there, I may have been, some of that's on Water Services property, I believe. But anyway, the Sports Authority controls that. So we have an easement now from the Sports Authority for our greenway. And that's really important to make sure that it stays operational like we want it to. So we're very happy about that. The two Madera projects are multifamily projects. One is in Germantown, the other in the Nations. Again, the developer, and same with Ben Allen, they're building these greenways, they're giving easements, and they're maintaining the landscaping on these for us at their cost, and they're all in perpetuity. Peabody Union is a rebuild of a portion of the Rolling Mill Hill Greenway that runs from KVB up to, their portion is at the trolley barns at Rolling Mill Hill. With their mixed-use development, they're rebuilding the greenway, they're adding an overlook, they're adding lighting, adding some additional pedestrian space that will be publicly accessible. The greenway originally was built in partnership with MDHA. So there too, we didn't have an easement for the greenway. So when the property sold, we technically could have no longer had a right to have the greenway there. Of course, everyone realized the value of the greenway, and that, that wasn't going to happen, but we now officially have an easement for that greenway. So that will stay in place. So anyway, we've got almost 1.5 miles currently under construction. We've got almost 11 miles in design or final permitting across the county. Some of these are capital budget funded projects, and some are private development partnerships. So the 440 Greenway, we have 2 segments. We've got right outside the door, down to a connector down to Centennial Park that extends the existing greenway. And then we have another greenway under design connecting Sevier Park to Gale Lane Park to Browns Creek Park. the Charlotte Corridor Rail with Greenway. We just posted our public input data, so that's up online if you want to take a look at that. We are having multiple meetings with the Cheatham County Rail Authority. It's their rail line that we are paralleling, and to work out an easement agreement with them because we need to be in some of their space. They need to keep their railroad active, so it's, we're just trying to work that out. And I think we're pretty close there on resolving on that. The Cumberland River Greenway, we've got several projects happening there. Let me get my list out so I don't forget. And I have Plus Oracle up there. I haven't seen the final design on that. I don't know how many miles or acres, but that was part of their campus plan, is to provide Greenway and Park there. I have not seen a final design, so, and of course, the pedestrian bridge is part of their project too. So, all really good things. The Cumberland River Greenway includes the Opry Mills Connector, the two projects that are being done by private development. One is on Second Avenue, and, well, they're both actually on Second Avenue, one at the Stockyards and one at Van Buren. Multifamily developments adjacent to an existing greenway that has some age to it, so they're a little narrow and they've need some maintenance, so there will be rebuilding those. They'll also be maintaining, doing landscaping, adding lighting, maintaining those for us. The Harpeth River Greenway is the Ariza Bellevue project, and I think you all are familiar with that. It's gotten its rezoning passed through council, and now we're looking at construction documents with the developers there. That hits a couple of points. It will extend the Harpeth River Greenway where it ends at Morton Mill Road at CSX Railroad. We've got to get beyond the railroad, and then it'll connect over to our trail that ties to the HYSA soccer complex. In addition to that, they're donating 21 acres of open space and building a vehicular bridge from Coley Davis Road to access the property, which gives us access to another approximately 50 acres of land that was donated by the Frist Foundation, Dorothy Kate Thomas Frist Foundation, for a park. So that one really hits a lot of points. We're excited to keep that one moving forward. It's a challenging site to get over, under, around the railroad. So we're working through that now. And I'm sure they're working with NDOT, probably TDOT as well, on the bridge design. And we'll be coordinating that, how the Greenway gets around through the bridge. The bridge will have bike lanes and sidewalks, so a real win in terms of greenways and connectivity. I'm not going to hit all of these, but Pennington Bend, we worked with pretty intensely with former council members Syracuse on developing the Pennington Bend Greenway. There are areas where their homes built so close to the edge of the bluff, there's no way to get a greenway through there. So we've looked at pathways more internal to the bend, and again, those are being coordinated with developments there. I think we've got 3 that we're working on right now. The Richland Creek Greenway, specifically, those mileage is referring to the Bellmead Plaza redevelopment. Again, we have no greenway there now. The developers will design it in coordination with us, build it, and maintain that as well. So all of those projects, they're being developed by or built by developers, but they still take our staff time, because it's like our own project. We still have to review design. We still have to monitor construction. We are just, for the most part, not having to spend funds to do that. So a win for us and for the city. Sorry for all the text, but I wanted to hit all the high points, because there is a lot happening. This year, we acquired almost 38 acres of open space. And I won't read through all of those for you. I think you're probably the Highway 70 and Highway 100 are associated with the Warner Parks. 88 Hermitage is associated with the planned Wharf Park downtown. Lockland Springs is out at Lockland Springs Park, adjacent to Shelby. Ben Allen is the project I mentioned earlier. That's one of our first trail-oriented developments. So along with the trail, we'll have easements over almost 2.5 acres. So some of these are easements, they're not ownership. We don't need to own everything, but the easements give the public access under Greenway rules, and they're in perpetuity. So sometimes that's all we need. Sometimes we want to own the space. And then the Charlotte Rail with Greenway, that little easement was our first one, and so didn't want to leave that one out. So we have we have a little over 175 acres of publicly accessible open space acquisitions in the works right now. Those are 37 different acquisitions, so some of what you see, you'll see repeat in terms of the greenways. It may be more than one greenway associated or segment associated with that particular corridor. But these were done most of them through private development. The 440 Greenway is a license agreement with TDOT to use their excess land. And that's the Sevier to Browns Creek connector. So we want on that land, we'll have a license agreement. That's what we have on the existing phase 1 of the 440 Greenway. And that has worked out really well for us. Several projects on Cumberland River. Some you may not recognize or they may be more familiar with you depending on where your district is, but Dry Creek, Ewing Creek, Holt Creek, Little, those are tributaries into the larger creeks. And with all the development happening, those are kind of rising up now as potential greenway corridors that maybe we hadn't focused on in the past. And all of those come to us through the planning department's rezoning process. So the division does have policy that allows this subdivision policy that allows us to acquire greenway easements for projects that are being rezoned and subdivided. And that usually encompasses, they're along waterways, left that important part out. That encompasses the floodway plus 75 feet, which includes the buffers. Sometimes those buffers may be in a slope or a steep cliff, and we need additional space. And the ordinance allows for that. So that's us working with these developers to come to terms on what that will look like. And oftentimes we have asked them to do at least some initial design, even if they're not building the greenway, so that we know that we're asking for the right amount of easement space. Sometimes that floodway in 75 feet is not enough. Occasionally, these projects may involve them building the greenway. It really depends on available connections. Does it make sense to have a greenway built now, or would it be better if we came back and did it later? And it's a site-by-site decision. The Gulch Greenway, this is the segment behind 11 North Apartments. So between the Church Street Bridge and MLK Junior Boulevard is currently a multifamily development with a greenway that was built by that developer. And they've got a lot more density allowed there. So there is a proposed project there that y'all have heard about in the past that will relocate the greenway easement, and that will come to you all for a vote. You've seen it, there have been some revisions, so for folks who are new, any change to a greenway easement has to be approved by the Greenways Commission. Then it goes to Park Board, then it goes to Council. So we take those revisions really seriously. We work really hard to get those easements. We expect if we're changing an easement to have an improved greenway, have more green space, have some maintenance component, you know, something more than just, sure, we'll shift a greenway easement for you. That one is particularly fun because it includes a vertical connection up to the top of the Church Street Bridge. And that's something we've wanted to have for a really, really long time. There are bikeways and bike lanes and sidewalks planned there that this will connect into. And give, you know, there's so much development happening up there that we want those workers and new residents to be able to get down to the Greenway. And I'll just take a moment, you'll see later in the slides, the different groups we work with. But Tom mentioned Metro Water Services and the great mission that they have for conserving space, open space, and reducing flooding. And we work really well and closely with Metro Water Services to see that happen, and then for parks to come in and build greenways or parks in that space. So it helps conserve it. It gives the public access to areas that they might not normally be in. It lets us build greenways. It conserves habitat. It really punches a bunch of buttons for us. We've got a project that we've talked about for a while on Whites Creek that would connect Hartman Community Center to Buena Vista Road, I think it's Road. And I forgot now how many parcels there were. I counted them up last night. It's a lot. 40-something, probably more than that, that Metro Water Services has acquired and are now ready for us to start design on that greenway that'll be in that space. And we'll go through community input and that whole process, but that one's exciting. We've partnered on Mill Creek, Richland Creek, I feel like a couple others to utilize that property and make it available to the public. Let me see what else we want to hit on. We have another partnership with Habitat for Humanity to build a park in the Haynes Trinity area that will include a greenway trail. It includes several easements that give access to that property that's coming to us. And then we have an additional blanket here, probably 50 acres of parkland that hasn't been developed yet that's contiguous to this. So we've worked with adjacent property owners for easements so that we're connecting a neighborhood to that park space. That design will come in probably after the Habitat project is built. Let me see which others just to kind of touch on. Richland Creek, the easements there include both the Bellmead Plaza rebuild and the project that's happening connecting St. Thomas over to White Bridge Road, St. Thomas Hospital West. Trying to be mindful of our time. So I'm just going to kind of roll back. 175 acres pending, 37 completed, 10 miles in design or final permitting, and about 1.5 miles currently under construction just in 2023. The projects that we work on with developers, you know, like any other project, just like any Greenway project, it doesn't get built in a year. It's usually land acquisition, then you move into design, then you move into the construction process. It's not unusual for a Greenway, depending on the size, to take 3 years to go from that acquisition all the way to cutting a ribbon. Same thing happens with development. So I didn't want to list every project that we reviewed with developers. There's so many because I haven't moved along far enough yet. I tried to really hit the ones that had legislation that you'll see coming back to you all for the easement part. You all vote on the preliminary SP with the conditions for the development, and we come back in with the Greenway easements or acquisition, and that has a separate park board and council approval process. So it's involved, it takes a bit. Then, sorry, dry. Wanted to highlight the renovations of our trailheads that are happening. As I'm sure you know, we've got some that have really aged out. Greenways for Nashville. Amy, if I have messed up on any of these counts, correct me. I think it was 10 originally. Did I miss that? Okay. 10 trailhead renovations has been done by Greenways for Nashville. So this is a donation. They're managing the whole project for us. It involves upgrading trailhead signs, repainting, pressure washing, fixing any concrete or stone issues, and then maybe most importantly, redesigning our maps that are on the trailhead, our wayfinding maps. So we've got a new standard that we developed starting with the 440 Greenway. So the trailhead right outside our door has those new graphics, and we're using that all across the system. So all of these trailhead upgrades will reflect that new graphic standard. Greenways for Nashville works with me and my staff to make sure those maps show what we want and look like we want them to. So they finished 10 trailheads this year. Right now they have 30 more underway. And they're really hitting those in terms of need. So the most aged out or in need of maintenance trailheads are happening. And then at the Great Circle Road trailhead on the Cumberland River Greenway at the Metro Center levee, that trailhead was completely rebuilt by Wood Partners, who had built an adjacent multifamily development. And they wanted to contribute to the Greenway system, that they were able to, they're right there at the Metro Center Greenway. So those have all been either completed or underway. Before I go into planning, any questions on kind of our process, or I really run through acquisition? There's a lot to that. But happy to field questions. All right. Plan to Play is the Greenways and Open Space and Parks Master Plan that was released in 2017. It's a 10-year plan, and we're a little bit more than midway through that, and it's time for an update. So from a Greenways and Open Space standpoint, we're trying to hit several things. One is to look at the corridors for greenways that were identified in the plan. Since 2017, with new development, we've identified other corridors that should be listed. And we want developers to know about that. We want city's planning department to know about those. So we'll be adding in additional corridors to the plan. We are looking at all of the existing right now. We're looking at all the parcels of land that touch these corridors. If it's a river, we're looking at both sides. What are the constraints? Topography, existing buildings, access. What are the opportunities? Great views, easy public access, great connectivity, those kinds of things to help us determine, which side of a waterway we want a greenway to be on. We still want easements and we want conservation to happen there, but to really more strategically plan where that routing might happen. And that way, as we're working with developers or our own capital budget process, we can be more strategic in how we plan those out. We have been called to collect data, which I'm really excited to be able to do this, to see who our greenway users are. Are they biking? Are they walking? Are they using it for transit? Are they using it for recreation? Both. Just exactly what's happening out there. We don't have that data. We have some anecdotal data and a few counts that we've done ourselves, but nothing official. And yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, thank you. I need some water.
Okay, so I'm just curious, so with new developments, is there some sort of trigger where they're required to come and speak to Greenways, or do you just find out about projects and go approach them?
That's a really good question, because there was a time when we sort of did, 10 years ago, just sort of find out maybe about projects, or and there wasn't nearly the development going on as there is now. So if it's a project that is going through an SP rezoning, and it's on a planned corridor, then that triggers, we're a part of that review process that planning manages. So all the different departments in Metro weigh in with, TDOT, I'm sorry, I keep saying NDOT, Metro Water Services, anyone who regulates or has, an interest in that space. Sometimes we just get calls, it may not be a requirement. If it's just if they have rights already zoned, we don't normally see that. So that's where we're trying to update the plan, get that out there. And hopefully, as part of this, beef up our policy so that we're, that's when that ordinance was passed quite a while ago. That was a big deal. And it's still a big deal, but now we've got spaces where we're trying to be that aren't along waterways, or we have a greater need than what that ordinance gives us. So we're working on, as part of this update and some other projects that we have, trying to beef up our policy, and that'll be a planning council process as well.
Cindy,
Sure, thank you.
when you say you're updating the plan, is that something that you can do unilaterally, or do you have to go through a process with other departments? How does that work?
Well, Plan to Play was done through the Parks Department. We did hire a consultant, and we're hiring a consultant to do this update. We coordinate with other departments. We need to know, for us, where's NDOT building bike lanes? Where are they building sidewalks? Where's Metro Water making property available? What projects does General Services have that might be affecting us? There's a big community input process to that as well. So, yes, we do coordinate. It's not just internal, but it is internally driven and managed.
Cindy,
Yes.
along those lines, was Plan to Play ever adopted by the council?
Plan to Play was adopted by the Park Board. It did not go to council.
Is there a benefit to it going to council someday?
Honestly, I'm not sure the answer to that. I think it's something that, I'm sure there was a reason why it was, just went to Park Board. I don't know. So I don't know the answer to that
Just seems
question.
like in the ether, I have heard things like if we had a Greenways plan that was adopted by council, it would give us more strength.
I would assume that it would have an extra layer of enforcement. I don't know the answer. It's probably,
To be continued.
well, probably, yeah, a good discussion with planning. I think there are experts on that. If you're familiar with our Greenway system, you know that most of the greenways aren't lit. Shelby Bottoms, Harpeth River, they're in more natural areas, and the intent has always been that greenways are open from dawn to dusk. But because of us, partly because we're getting into more urban space where people are going to be out there and they need to be on the greenways, they're using those to get around. They're using them in wintertime for open space, and it's dark at 5 o'clock. So we've started on any of our urban core greenways, have added, we have lighting, the Gulch Greenway, portions of the Cumberland River Greenway. We're looking at policy for how much of that do we want to light? How do we light areas that are natural areas? Do we light those areas? We're looking at lighting standards. Those are going to apply first to the 440 Greenway, just because they're set up for that to happen. We've got lighting in a lot of places. We're looking at the different light fixtures that we've used, trying to establish standards, one for just identity of the Greenway, also for maintenance reasons. We don't need to have, a dozen different lighting components that our maintenance team has to try to supply. Safety is a big consideration. We have the dark sky ordinance that we need to comply with. So, work in progress. Like I said, the first new, aside from the urban greenways downtown, the 440 will be the first one that you'll kind of start to see. We'll retrofit phase one. So we'll look at what lighting is supplied by street lighting. I went through there last night. It's not a lot. You know, the streets are lit, but they're not intended to light behind them. So anyway, that's part of that. And then our standards update. I feel like early decision makers who started the whole Greenway system made really great choices on Greenway standards. You know, our trailheads are timeless. I think they still are as relevant today. They don't call to a certain time period. It's not the 80s. They blend well. So with some minor color upgrades that we've done over the years and graphic upgrades, we need to get all that kind of packaged up. Rolling in the lighting, we've widened our greenways. Originally, they were 8 to 10 feet. Now we're trying to build 14-foot wide greenways. Looking at that user analysis, looking at safety, looking at issues like speeding on the greenways or folks with their dogs, we've got a lot of folks in the same space. So what can we do to make that a better experience for everyone? We'll be looking at that as part of that standards update. One more question. Thank you.
I'm wondering if we're looking at solar lights so that we're not adding to.
The Parks Department already has some solar lighting that they really like. Places like the Aubrey Mills connector, where it would be really difficult to run electricity, are going to probably call for a strong look at solar. Our greenways are in natural areas. We try to conserve tree canopy, so we've got to balance out, available source of energy there to power the solar. But that's definitely will be an option, and we'll look first at what our maintenance division has used within the city, but we'll look at other peer cities. We'll look at what's happening in town. I'm sure Kendra's going to be a big help with that, but yes. And, there's the solar option. There are light sensors so that maybe they're turned down until motion happens and they become brighter. So all those things, we don't want to have lights intruding on someone's residential area. We've got a lot of different situations to be in. So.
On the dark sky ordinance, what does it cover? I mean, just new stuff, just public stuff, or, what lighting is under the dark sky ordinance?
I know that it's in the public realm because we have an ordinance through the city that when we're doing public projects, we need to adhere to that. Private development, I'm not sure. I don't know the answer to that. But I can find out.
It'd be interesting to see.
And I can send you all a link to the ordinance if you're interested in taking a look
I
at
would.
that. Yep, happy to do that.
It does a little good if it's just new public, but it would do a lot of good if it were broader without requiring everybody to retrofit everything.
Yeah, I don't know the answer, but
Thank you.
I know a lot of cities are changing out lights to LEDs. I think we've done some of that.
Yeah,
I'm not an expert. You certainly know more.
Our retrofit that is about to kick off in January is dark sky compliant lighting. But again, that's essentially public lighting infrastructure, not necessarily privately owned lighting infrastructure.
NDOT is also updating their lighting policy for right-of-way and roads and pathways. So any of their sidewalks and bike lanes, we're actually meeting with them. They've invited departments to come in and comment on that. So I think that's this week. So I'm hoping we'll get some information from there that may apply for us as well. Different kind of standards for streets than what we're dealing with, but I think that'll be helpful to us. And I mentioned, I'm not going to read all these, but But these are some of the, these are the ways that we coordinate with other departments, the way we coordinate with nonprofits, state agencies, the mayor's office, various studies that are happening around the city. We are busy and very involved in coordinating with what's happening with the city as a whole, trying to make sure that we're aware and that we're partnering where we can, and anytime we're given an opportunity to participate, we do. Connect Downtown is a really good example of that, where we've coordinated their priority multimodal pathways and our planned greenways and bus stops and all those things. And we are always happy when we are invited to participate with other departments. Metro Water Services has a master planning process going on that we've been attending those meetings. The mayor's office, Kendra, has managed a sustainability committee that's done some great work. So all the places that parks have a place and a voice, we're happy to be there.
Does anybody know what the 10-minute walk initiative is?
So that's trying to put our citizens, all of our citizens, within 10-minute walk of a park facility. So we worked with the Trust for Public Land, we worked with Kendra in the mayor's office to analyze our system and where we have green public spaces and where we have walkability. And we actually, out of that came a process to formalize agreements that we have with Metro Schools, because we share some space. They have playgrounds and other amenities that the public can benefit from. So looking at how to make that connectivity and how to formalize that process.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Okay, away from all the written text, I'm sure you're ready to get away from that. I'm going to hit some of the projects, not every single one that we're doing, but a good cross-section, so you can kind of put images to what we're talking about. This is the 440 Greenway right outside our door that will connect the existing Greenway to 31st Avenue, and then we've expanded it on into Centennial Park with the idea that we create some new trails at a corner where there's no access. You can see the park and you can walk across the grass, but there's no paved trail there. If you're on a bike, you're just kind of finding your way. It's kind of in partnership with a pavilion project that the Conservancy and the Parks Department are working on. And with that connection and making that short trail connection, it lets people get all the way over to West End. And so you'll be able to be at Elmington Park and get to Centennial Park, and then through the trails that are already existing over to West End. You're at the Vanderbilt campus, you're at restaurants and places of interest. So it's only like 0.2 of a mile. It involves a road diet, so we'll take some of that on-street parking out there. We've talked to HCA, we've been working with NDOT to make sure that we can eliminate those on-street parking spaces, kind of shift the alignment of the road, just striping, and then utilize some of that space for the Greenway. We'll raise it up out of the roadbed. We'll have a vegetative buffer. The park is right there, the dog park, but it's a pretty steep slope, and we don't want to come in and build retaining walls. It's just not necessary. We've got trees out there we want to conserve. So anyway, that project has funding, and we're probably 75% through with design. Like I said, we've added that component tying into Centennial Park. So hopefully that one will be under construction in 2024. I think that it will. Short, small but mighty connection there. The other 440 Greenway will connect Sevier Park, as I mentioned, to Gale Lane Park and Browns Creek Park. That's the one I forgot, Tom. Browns Creek Park was built on flood buyout property. This is severe. This is Interstate 440, essentially, kind of going through here. We're over here, and this is the phase that's built currently. Our little connector to Centennial is down here. Severe Community Center, we're renovating there, the historic Sunnyside Mansion. Metro Historic Commission will have their offices there, so a very active community, very active park. Yale Lane Park was constructed by TDOT and turned over to us, and then we've built Browns Creek Park on flood buyout property. So this is a greenway that will connect all of those. We've got
Cindy, are all of these greenways accessible for
Yes.
people?
we're required to build them ADA compliant. So, yes. Now, there are some hills, and where we have hills, we have design standards that let us create pull-offs or landings. I mean, some places we have to do switchbacks to make that work. All the while trying not to take down trees or, so it's a bit of a puzzle. It's a little challenge. It's fun. This is a great project. It involves a boardwalk, or essentially a bridge over part of Browns Creek, which kicks us into FEMA permitting. And our design is basically finished. We have two kind of permit activities happening there. One is finalizing our license agreement with TDOT to be in their excess land. And the other is going through the FEMA permitting process, showing that we aren't creating any kind of a rise in the floodway with our boardwalk. Unfortunately, I've heard latest anywhere between 6 months to a year to get through that approval process. So we're really thrilled to have the design almost complete, but it's going to be a minute before you see any construction happening there. Again, this was partnering with NDOT as well. We've got some crosswalks. We're utilizing some space in the city's right-of-way, and very concerned about making safe crossings where we're mid-block, and NDOT has worked with us there on making sure that we design that. We actually, I'm safety, it makes me, makes me nervous. I'm always like, safer, let's make it safer. So I think we've done a really good job on how we cross there and the warnings, and hopefully we've done it successful. We will see. That just shows the route. I don't want to get too in the weeds here. I know that our technology is not great, but you've got Sevier Park, Gale Lane Park, Interstate 440, and this is Browns Creek Park. So we are utilizing some NDOT right-of-way here, going through Gale Lane Park, and then we're into TDOT's excess land. We actually go underneath the interstate at a road crossing, and then in a really great stretch of excess right-of-way that has trees and just open lawn area. And our little boardwalk is here, and then we connect into the existing park. So again, kind of small but mighty. Charlotte Corridor Rail with Greenway is a 4.5-mile connector along the Cheatham County Rail Authority. We are looking at, I am losing my pointer here, phase one probably being somewhere in this segment, and we're continuing to work on the whole easement acquisition, but that seems to be coming to the top, and that'll connect 28th Avenue and then into the Complete Street project there, over to the same intersection that we're tying into with the 440 Greenway, all the way over to the Farmers Market. Fisk and Meharry universities are up here, so we have a connector there. Also, Cossey Gardner Park, Edmondson Park, and Watkins Park. So connectors there, connectors into the Gulch Greenway and Frankie Pierce Park. And again, Farmers Market, and then on to trails that are existing. So a tremendous amount of giving public access to park space, to residential is popping up all along this corridor, lots of businesses, and really working with the community there to create a greenway that is uniquely North Nashville, telling the story of North Nashville. And there's so much there that we can do. We've been master planning, so once we have an easement agreement in place, we'll start construction design for at least a first phase. Y'all stop me anytime you have questions, because I can always use a break. The Opry Mills connector, another one that has, permitting and has been slow, but this project will connect the Cumberland River pedestrian bridge to the Opry Mills campus. And we're still working through some TDOT requirements for the grant that we have on that project. This is the greenway behind First Horizon Park that I mentioned. That's the development happening there, and the greenways coming alongside it. The ballpark is here, multifamily happening here, and greenway traversing through the project. Oop. Challenged today. Wharf Park, we've completed the master plan for Wharf Park. During that process, 88 Hermitage was acquired, and the city's looking at how to best utilize that property, which will inform any changes that should or might be made to the alignment of Wharf Park. We've also done a feasibility study on how to connect Wharf Park down at water level to Cumberland Park. So, because you got to go up a pretty good hill here, coming from KVB to up the existing greenway. So giving folks two different options is important there. Again, this is the Modera Germantown residential project that's almost directly adjacent to the proposed Oracle Bridge. And this is one of their projects in the Nations. Large easements, short segments, but again, they're designing, building, and maintaining those for us. That's kind of just a snap of what that will look like. Residential there, a buffer, the greenway, and then conservation of that whole slope down to the river. I don't know what has happened to my Peabody Union slide, but anyway, the second time that's happened. It's a very interesting project. I think it is doing a tremendous vitalization of that greenway. It's always been used heavily, but now the public spaces that they're adding to it and keeping the greenway open and publicly accessible, not closing it for any kind of events is our goal. First and Gay Park is existing greenway, Cumberland River Greenway, and some open space that the park system has had, but it really was never activated. It had some benches, and it was a nice green space. But our planning division is adding pickleball courts and a little play area and activating that space. There's a housing, permanent supportive housing project happening across the street. So all of that has been coordinated together to serve the public. I mentioned Pennington Bend. This, of course, is the Bend. Opry Mills is down here. This is a large project happening. So you can tell it's not right on the river because we've got a lot of homes there and no space to build a greenway. But there are a lot of projects happening internal to the Bend, and so we're working with those developers both here, and there's another one up here to add greenways to their developments. That's another one. I know there's no context for you, but I just didn't want to forget that one. The trail on this project runs internal to their project. This was one of the Second Avenue projects I mentioned. This was state-owned property here, and the state sold it, and this parcel is being developed. This portion of the greenway, all the way that kind of wraps around it, will be rebuilt, widened out, landscaped, lighting. A lot of coordination with Metro Water Services on that because they've got facilities through there. This is the project I mentioned, the Gulch Greenway. The Capitol is here. 11 North runs, sorry, I'm having a hard time saying it, but generally in this direction. Frankie Pierce Park is down here. So this is that stretch of Greenway that will be rebuilt. The Greenway easement will be amended, and the overhead connection up to Church Street will be constructed as part of that. If you know, we recently opened the segment behind Assyrian, and Highwoods Properties built that project. That was one that the easement agreement allowed for the Greenway to be relocated, but Assyrian, or Highwoods took that on to relocate it where we wanted it and to design it and build it and maintain it. They also bought some additional property next door, and not sure what they're going to build on that, but they went ahead and built the Greenway all the way down to Broadway. So now that the Broadway Bridge has been rebuilt, the plan is to partner with Highwoods, or unless that property sells, but anyway, to partner with that owner and change this space under Broadway Bridge to a really amazing trailhead. And we have an easement over that entire space there, so coming soon. Brookmead Greenway is a greenway that we have on the Cumberland River. It's, if you've kept up with the news, for many years was a place for homeless encampments, to the point that the greenway really deteriorated and public access was very limited. So that has been, the folks who were living there have been rehoused, and we are reconstructing that greenway. And that one is in the purchasing process right now to hire a contractor. I mentioned the study that we did from Wharf Park to Cumberland River Park. This is a study that we have completed looking at how to connect Fort Negley to Fair Park. This is not the study, this was just the initial, let's do this study. We're looking at several options. One, paralleling CSX, the other being in I-65 right-of-way. So the feasibility study just calls out constraints and opportunities there, and we'll use that as we go forward, trying to get that funded and build that out. Talked about that study. Sorry, I wish I could tell you more about the Oracle campus, but we know it's happening. Ariza Bellevue is one that I mentioned a few minutes ago that will extend the Harpeth River from the Morton Mill, where it ends, Morton Mill Greenway. This is the CSX Railroad that we have to get under. And then new Greenway will wrap around and connect to existing. This is the park property that we have. When this bridge is built, vehicular bridge, it will give us access as well to this property, and we'll be able to develop that park. Richland Creek Greenway, St. Thomas to White Bridge Road, has gone through a rezoning process. I've not seen a lot of activity with that recently, but I know it's still on the books. That one is really amazing because of the open space that St. Thomas has been talking with us about donating. When you get down to low area, when you're down there, you really, really don't feel like you're in the middle of that very commercial, industrial, or not industrial, but institutional area. It's really quite lovely.
How close are they to making a decision?
I don't know. I don't know. We dealt with that project a lot right there at the end of the administration, and then I've not heard a lot about it. Bellmead Plaza, we've got a meeting next week to start talking about that design, so. And then I've lost Tom, but this is the flood buyout property that we were talking about. This is White's Creek. Hartman Community Center sits here, and Buena Vista Road is up here. All of these parcels outlined in red, except for 4, were part of the flood buyout property. 4 of those were owned by Piedmont, who then donated. They did a gas line installation and then donated those parcels over to Metro. So we will start, we're working to get a consultant on board, and we'll start design of that greenway. very active community center. So we have the Whites Creek Greenway that goes back down in this direction to Mullins Park, also flowed by our property. So we're really excited. That one is, no land cost, so we can we've got funding to design and build. A possibility here with the new, this is no longer called the Juvenile Justice Center, but they're close to Pages Branch, so there's an opportunity maybe there for us to connect that facility to the future Pages Branch Greenway. Tusculum Road was a 10-acre acquisition that has now become Mariposa Park, or is in the design. This is the Habitat property. I'm just going to run through these last ones. Laughlin Springs. This is the 4 acres that we added to that park. And that's it. I'll leave some time for questions. We've been busy. It's been a really great 2023. And having extra staff on board, and these guys are great. I mean, we've got lots of talent. We're not all the same. We're pulling from a lot of different strengths, and excited to be able to bring one more on board. Amrita, our other project manager, is on vacation, so she didn't get to join us today. But we've got a lot happening, and thank you all for supporting us, and we're looking forward to all the things that we've got ahead for us in 2024. Sorry for so much talking. There's a lot to share. We've got just a couple minutes, Ann, for Greenways for Nashville has a quick.
Left. Okay, Amy.
Lots of statistics, and so Greenways for Nashville, if you are watching our social or our emails, we are doing similar year in the review so that we can tug on the heartstrings and the pocketbooks of our donors. And much like the division, we are very aligned, as you know. Our reflection back, and again, you'll see it all in our materials that you have received or will receive, but our year was essentially, we doubled the number of community functions that we are representing, sitting on stakeholder groups, presenting, providing expertise and information about the Greenway system from the user perspective. That's our voice, to about 200 in this past year. Our social media reach, which is we use Instagram and Facebook. We were about 100,000. So our material is watched, it is absorbed, it reinforces the program. And we put out almost 5,000 printed newsletters are under my computer. You all received them. That is basically a testimony and documentation of the work that is public, and it shows it's a way for people to have a reference piece as well as how to connect with Greenways, how to be involved in our events. I'm probably one of the things, and again, it's a statistic, but most proud of is we do a monthly e-newsletter that is ways to get engaged, ways to go use, and information on how to be active on the system. We have a distribution of about 7,000, might be slightly less. I might have gotten that, scribbled it down very quickly, but our open rate is about 60%, which is double the industry average in the nonprofit sector. So people love the Greenways, and that is our role, is to inform more, to bring more to the city, Greenway system, not to the city, but to the Greenway system so that they're using it for whatever their needs are, health, wellness, family, connection through transportation, but creating that awareness of these big, long developed, connected greenways, as well as the smaller pocket ones. And again, we create that awareness. That awareness helps you and helps the department present a case for funding. And when the community support is there, the funding, is much more popular. So I also wanted to share a Dinner by the Bridge, which several of you attended. It is our sold-out event. It is our fundraiser, how we raise the money to fund our staff and our work and our materials. We raised almost $360,000. It was sold out again. It's been sold out for probably the last 10 years. We have a free series that we launched almost a year ago, Greenways and IPAs, and so it is a barrier-free. We had one over in East Nashville last November, or this past November, not last November. So we are continuing with that, another way to gather people in a casual setting and provide information and maps and ways to get involved. I will love for you all to put on your calendar, April 8th. Will be the next Richland Creek Run. That is a competitive run, a fun run, a walk, attracted 600 people last year. The money is used across the entire system, but it was a neighborhood-founded event, and it does help finance and fundraise for the entire Greenway system. Up on the screen, launched last week or the week before, Jordan is as he introduced himself, our marketing manager. He basically quarterbacked this. It is the Greenways, the renovated Greenways for Nashville website, and it is so dynamic. I think most exciting is, and I don't know because sometimes the service is a little glitchy, but exploring the Greenways. Now you have the opportunity to get a little thumbnail picture of what a particular Greenway looks like that might intrigue you to go there. And then, again, the service is a little bit slow, but head there yourself, greenwaysfornashville.org. You'll see the images, you'll see the individual maps. We still have some in the works, but it is going to be, I think, a really embraced tool. It's state of the art. We looked at other cities who had done, and there are very few have these really compelling websites. And I think we have one now for the Greenways. So it'll get better, and we will add materials, certainly look at it. Let me know if you see something. We are not perfect. There might be typos, and there's so much material there or a link. Just kick me an email or a text if you catch anything, and we will take care of it. It's just out. It's in the soft launch stage, so I guess by announcing it here, it's in the hard launch stage. So, any questions?
Thanks.
Yeah. If you make a donation, that's the other, we have our end of year campaign. If you make a donation of $250 or more in the month of December, you get a free Greener Nashville for All tote. So if you see anybody who has a tote, walk up to them and tell them thank you at the grocery store.
Great, great, great. Thank you. I think that's all. So thank you all for coming and staying with us. Very informative, lengthy meetings, but were worthwhile. So thank you. Makes me want to have some field trips.
And our thumbnail is finally up.
Yeah, what a fabulous year. None of us are clapping. We're just kind of in, stunned state, and just great, and just love all the new staff that you've added. That's no small feat to get the people that you want. And so pleased with I guess we have, Jenny was on the council when that was passed, and it's just making all the difference. And Cindy can now only go half as insane with all these opportunities as she was. So it's really something. And so I do have a number of questions, but you may want to wait for the next meeting, because everything you say prompts different things. And of course, things that come to my mind that relates particularly to the council are all these great projects, which ones are actually funded. And I know you got the capital budget and you got the money in there, and you can then plug projects into it, but there's just something about, seems to me, I'm just saying this, putting this into your thought process as we proceed next year, sort of where all that is. I mean, if our role is, as a commission, to be, to some degree, oversight, management, input, not troublesome, but just really wanting to be sure that we're doing our job, is to know where that is. And I'm very interested in the open space fund, and which is, you know, not all these open space plans actually, I guess, projects actually come to us, but, you know, just some things that come up with some measures and some of the looking forward to when when projects can be anticipated to be completed, and some of those kinds of things are just.
To your point, Jeannie, I think it would be really fantastic, maybe you already have this, but to see a map with all of the parcels that have been purchased, that are in process of things actually happening, just something for us visual type people.
Yeah, I don't have it, something that we can spend some time on.
Right, in
putting
your spare
together.
time, right?
That's part of what we're doing in looking at all of these corridors and analyzing those is, and part of what will happen with the Plan to Play update as well. So we're glad to have a consultant kind of helping us manage that. There's a lot that we can do in-house, but we have a lot on our plate too, so balancing that out, and I think having a consultant on board is going to help a lot with that.
Cindy, what's the time frame for the Plan to Play?
It's probably a year by the time we do all the coordination, the studies, the community input. We're looking at a year that ties into the year-long data collection that I want to do on the Greenways, because they're, you know, they're 12 months out of the year operated, and we want to see how that changes, you know, with the seasons. So that's the estimate from the consultant. It's about a year.
Okay, great. And I can imagine some of the things I just threw out would be a part of that, but.
Well, part of it too is an implementation plan, not just for Greenways, but for park development as well. Our maintenance division is looking at, they're actively assessing all of our facilities right now, and including bridges and pavement and that sort of thing, to strategically plan managing a system like ours that continues to grow, and something to justify and quantify the need for staff, the need for maintenance dollars. It's a balancing act when I'm always trying to add property, and we've got to have the folks to take care of that. And sometimes it's, you know, it's open space. We get, well, what's there to maintain? It's just open space. And
Oh dear.
that's, you know, that's somewhat true. But, you know,
Well, we heard from a constituent who had open space behind his house that's been built upon. You know, I mean, that's not
Right.
our open space per se, but it could happen under our open space.
right. I mean, there are things to consider. Public safety, number one, and you know, maintaining and sustaining the resources.
Right.
It takes bodies to do that. So.
I have a specific, the Plan to Play goes into the creeks, which certainly, you know, we have, in the old Plan to Play, it was mainly the waterways. But as that gets expanded, will that also expand the public? I mean, will that mean that those places will have greenways?
Absolutely.
Okay. Will
yeah,
that be a
and
problem?
when you have areas that maybe have tributaries and they're very rural, those aren't necessarily the high demand areas.
And yet
Because
they
we've
will be.
got so much development
Yeah.
happening that we're trying to stay ahead of, but as these areas become more developed and it makes sense to build along those smaller waterways that then tie into the bigger, it's just part of a
Right, okay,
bigger system.
good. While we can, while they're still undeveloped.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
So if we only had a New Year's toast, it should be to our partner-in-chief, Cindy. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all. I think we've had a really great year and, coming off of all the challenges that we all came off of and we're very heavy in design. I think I've expressed that here before, a lot of design happening. Ideally, we would be spread out, right? So acquisition of land, design projects and construction projects. No. We're trying to move into a more balanced situation, and you could, like the Whites Creek project, the Browns Creek project, that, in 440, that's gonna take a year probably to get our permitting on. There's nothing we can do about that. We submit great plans, we stay in contact, but it's out of our hands there. So some things just, we can't control. Hopefully that'll help us get into a better balanced workload of projects, but.
And thank the council members, and if you all think of any time in which individually or collectively we need to know about something, just, an issue that comes up, we would love to know.
Yep. Y'all have my contact information, don't hesitate to
Okay,
reach
thank you
out.
all. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.